Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the episode 7 of the Virtual Coffee Show. Of course, as you have figured out already from the thumbnail, this one's a special topic again. Beyond 2020, should you be a master of one or jack of all trades? And many of you have probably heard this phrase before, but now beyond 2020, everything changes. And now we've got an expert panel really having a discussion on this. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the expert panel today, starting with Esther from JCU Brisbane. She's our top lecturer at JCU Brisbane. Esther, welcome to the Virtual Coffee Show.
Thank you so much, Shrikant, and welcome to the beautiful audience who's listening to us now.
Awesome. Welcome, Ian, on the Virtual Coffee Show. This is your second appearance on the show, and of course, our audience loves you.
Thank you very much, Shrikant. It's really nice to be on the show with you and with Esther, whom I respect very much. So, all good. Thank you.
Awesome. So today, of course, the topic, as you know, it's a master versus jack, and probably start with Esther here. The world has changed really in the last, few months, last 6 months to be precise. And honestly speaking, from my perspective, I've always believed that you've got to be a master of one. You've got to excel in one thing. You've got to be the best in what you do. And in the last 6 months, I have been actually reviewing, that approach, because a number of companies have been laying off staff, and those staff, the ones who are sustainable, the ones who have managed to keep their jobs, more or less have many skills, and that's really what the companies are looking for. So the question really here is it a time for the jack of all trades?
Well, when I express my opinion, I would love to kind of weave in my students' view, because I talk a lot about this in my classrooms, because, I'd love to do whatever suits my students, and I'd love to know where they are at with all of these. So universities have the responsibility to prepare students very thoroughly and go for deep knowledge, deep understanding, critical thinking. As we all know, that's all the favorite of my students. So it's a very big responsibility for us to prepare students for life. And you don't just scratch the surface when you teach at a university level. However, there's more and more need for integrating different disciplines, different industry specifications into our teaching and learning. And that title is really intriguing, to say the least. I've got a little issue with the word versus or, because I would love to add the plus sign there and just say and, because that's exactly what we need. We need a master who's going to go deep and have an understanding on the major industry they are going to work in. However, they do need to know so much more than what they thought they might be applying for or enrolling into. And the transferable skills are going to be the most important little toolkits that people can take with them to wherever they work. So the jack would be an interesting role to play with, and to kind of introduce it in a different way to our students, that the jack doesn't really mean that you know nothing about what you do, and you keep your fingers in all the different pies, and then you just scratch the surface. But it actually means that you can transfer your knowledge from one place to the other, from one position to the other, from one industry to the other, and maybe from one country to the other, because we are dealing with a lot of students coming from different countries, and they have the desire to stay in Australia or to go to a third country. So we need to have a very open mind when it comes to changing our way of teaching our students. What do you think, Ian?
I think thinking is a really interesting thing, Esther, because it comes back to how do you think and what do you think about. Do lecturers lead you to think, or do you think for yourself originally? And it's been one of the most interesting issues that I think I've found on this campus with a lot of international students, depending on which part of the world they come from, as to the kind of training that they've had for thinking, or in other words, I lived in Korea for a number of years, and a lot of the time their thinking process was, you're not supposed to think, you're supposed to learn. In other words, there was a separation between thinking and learning, which was quite interesting. And that was in the school environment, not necessarily a university environment. And whereas I think back to my own childhood and my children's childhoods, we taught them to think for themselves, to actually have original thoughts, which is not necessarily natural in other societies or even groups within Australia. And when it comes back to the jack of all trades, master of none, or jack of all trades, master of one, that kind of thinking, I've after talking with you, Shrikant, and going back over time with my own learning, I've learned about at least 10 different things in my life. From my original learning was wool classing, like with sheep, learning how to classify wool, which has got nothing whatsoever to do with sustainable business management principles in the 21st century. In other words, my knowledge is spread over a long period of time over a lot of different areas. And so when I'm working with students here now, the biggest thing to me is to get them to actually think original thoughts. Right? And as Esther said, you need transferability of skills. Right? And because the reality now is students don't know where they're going to work or how many companies or how many careers they're even going to have. You don't know. Right? When I was a kid, there was no way in the whole wide world I would have thought of being an academic. Right? My mother probably knew I would be, but I didn't know. Right? My mum was quite good. She was very smart. Right? She was Australian born, but she spoke, read and wrote 6 different languages. She was an educated woman. And I think of the jack of all trades, you have to be able to spread yourself over a number of different areas, particularly now when self-employment is on the rise, micro businesses are on the rise, and a lot of other businesses are actually in decline. And that's global. It's a global issue now. It's not just an Australian issue. So I think that students have to be master of some things, not master of one thing. They actually have to be good in several areas. And I've made some notes down here, like as Esther said about thinking. Just being able to think original thoughts, not just here's the textbook, regurgitate kind of thing, but actually having original thoughts on ideas, just ideas in general. Students ask me, I give them a case study, and they say, well, sir, there's no company. You just say a company. What industry? And I say to them, you create the company in your head, right? And that's unusual for some people, but when they lock onto it, they realise, wow, this is exciting. It really is genuinely exciting when they can create the case themselves and then answer their own case. The other thing is relationships in business, being able to work cooperatively with other people, whether they're above you, below you, or on the same level as you, right? Being able to work cooperatively with a wide smear of people to get best results, and to have a workplace where everyone genuinely wants to work together and everyone contributes. And if you make mistakes or whatever, people think, hey, doesn't matter, we'll fix everything up. So that everyone is contributing to the totality of the situation. Having a fundamental basic knowledge of economics, not all these nice graphs and squares and things like that, but true economics. In other words, where does money come from? How do you actually make it? How do you spend it in a company? And how do you keep some of it for the bottom line? Understanding the fundamental basics of economics. And it doesn't matter whether students in hospitality or manufacturing or whatever, it doesn't matter, education. The economics fundamentally are the same in all businesses. Money comes in, money is consumed, and money stays at the bottom line. And then having the transferability of skills, because there are always human beings involved in every business, every industry. In Australia, there are classically about 17 different industries. But some people now, particularly working like on a consultancy kind of basis, actually spread themselves over different industries at the same time. So I think transferability of skills is a big issue for the 21st century. So that's my thoughts.
Right. So obviously you've made some very valid points over there, Ian, and both Esther as well. And particularly I find the one where you say you've got to be a master of some. And I tend to agree with that significantly because, for example, what we do at James Cook University in Brisbane, and we've been doing that for more than a decade. We have joint degree programs available. These are basically double masters. So it's perhaps time for students and perhaps time for those who want to succeed in life to look at having a mastery of 2 skill sets, and that's something we are in a position to do already by offering an MBA alongside an IT program, an accounting program, hospitality and education, and so on. So that's I think very good to hear from you, Ian. And you also made a point about the transferability of skills, and that most businesses need certain skill sets which do not change really. So the economics doesn't change. It just going that extra bit, detailed information about particular industry or particular company is what you need as a student. And going back, Esther, to your points, I think what you mentioned is you've got to be a bit of both, a mix of both, more of a hybrid rather than necessarily a master of one or a jack of all trades. And I think a classic example here would be the field of medicine, where you're talking about general physicians and you're talking about specialist doctors. So if a person knows that there's an issue with their, for example, their bones, they know which doctor to go to. But they are just feeling uneasy or they're not feeling well, they would go to a general physician. So both the type of doctors are of course required, and it's not necessary that if you're a master, you are the best, or if you're a jack, you are not the best. You could actually be best in either. Typically, it is believed that it would take anywhere between 8 to 10,000 hours of studying or working in a field to really master that field. But when we say master of some, is that something really possible for students to achieve mastery in 2 skill sets or 3 skill sets, for example? So I think that's a tough question, Ian, I know, but I would like your thoughts on that.
Good points, Shrikant. I can't show you this in detail, but I'm working on a plan right now to build that into different things here. What I'm looking at right now is if we're doing, say, an MBA in leadership, then obviously not just doing only MBA subjects, but where possible doing accounting subjects, where possible doing IT subjects, where possible doing MITHM or tourism hospitality subjects, wherever it fits in best for a student's career. I think doing all management subjects is probably like a 20th century kind of model. I think right now the double master's degree is by far the best thing, where you can actually do different subjects in different areas. I think having a well-rounded knowledge, or looking at what you're weak in, and actually doing 1 or 2 subjects in that area. Like for instance, a lot of students don't like accounting, or don't like one thing, right? And I think, well, whether you like it or not, it's not the point. I think you have to have knowledge in that area. So do another subject in that same area or a similar area. Maybe a subject in, say, business law. Or a subject in tax accounting. Well, no, not tax accounting. Forget that. That's way too technical. But in finance, because finance, it doesn't matter where in the world you go, there's finance. You have to have an understanding. And then it comes back to whether a student is likely to actually start their own business, or whether they're just going to work in a business, an existing business. Different skills. So one of the things that we try to thread through the MBA, where we possibly can, actually two concepts. One concept in sustainability of how to actually make a business sustainable, which means treating people right, looking after the environment, and also making money. Right? And the second issue there outside of sustainability then is the issue of understanding the holistic business, which is like how a business actually operates, which is called entrepreneurship. Not entrepreneurship, but intrapreneurship, where you can actually be in a job somewhere and be thinking about all the various aspects of the business as to what's operating really, really well, what's maybe not operating really all that well. And exactly the same as students when they're doing an internship, I suggest to them is every Friday night when they're in bed, just kick back, think about your week and write some notes about what you thought about the week, or what could be made better, or what could be improved, and so on. And then having that, actually talk next week with your supervisor or whatever to think about how could that business be made to operate better. And I think so that the two issues then of how to make a business sustainable, which is a big issue, as Esty and I both know, because we've worked together on issues in sustainability, and not just ecological, but financial and social and so on. And then thinking about, if you're an entrepreneur, how could that business grow or succeed or change when markets change? How could a business adapt to a new environment? So those are the two issues that I would think threading through degree. And it doesn't matter whether it's a business degree or the MBA or whatever, those two issues threading through so that graduating students then have the ability to think and reason through the issues that are likely to change a business.
Okay. So awesome. So Esther, Ian just answered that question on how master of some is also a possibility, and of course you got to focus on that thinking part. And now you've probably a step ahead with how you think this this needs to go forward. So you're saying master of one or master of some plus a jack of all trades. So I want to throw that question back to you, Esther. Is that really, is it really possible for one to, try and achieve or learn so many skills, in their lifetime, or during their study or whatever?
Thank you, Shrikant. Well, you know me all too well. Already ahead. That's somewhere there. And yeah, I would love to go back to what you were talking about, medicine and the medical degrees. That yes, you are a general practitioner, but you might also choose to specialize in something. Well, look at that. I think the world is kind of ripe now and ready for us to be a bit more courageous and reach out, not only in the same field like medicine, but try to bring the different fields together. Like, why not learning about construction, logistics, e-commerce, information technology, supply chain management, tourism, carrying capacity, destination management, financial accounting, corporate accounting? Why not all of these in one degree? What is really holding us back to try to reach out to all these different industries that you see that they are anyways converging? There's a beautiful marriage happening between information technology and finance, which we now call fintech. That's their little baby, right? So there is a natural process or evolution in the different industries, and they are converging towards one another. So why can we not tweak our portfolio, our teaching portfolio accordingly? What is holding us back? I was just reading a KPMG report about the CEO's confidence level in the global economy, and that it's just going down. Of course, we understand why, right? But what does that really mean to the employees of the future? And what does that mean to us as the educators who got the responsibility to prepare these employees for the future? And you know what? Wherever I go and whenever I interact with the employers, they say, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what's going to happen. We actually rely on this fresh blood, on our new employees, to bring in something that we were not thinking about. We haven't been thinking about. We haven't been exploring enough. We haven't really gone deep into this yet. But this is going to happen. So our responsibility in this is to keep a really open mind and now look into not just learning and thinking, but also the emotions of our students, and have a look at how ready they are emotionally to take on something new that they don't know what's going to bring. There's a huge uncertainty, a very high level or degree of uncertainty for all our students that they have to manage on a daily routine. And it's just making it even more difficult for us to try to drill a hole in their head and then put all this knowledge in, funnel everything in. Obviously, it's not that easy, but it's not impossible. I truly believe that with a little bit of a refresh on the degree program, a little bit of a refresh on what we do, how we do things, and how we are delivering knowledge, that's something that we all need to look into. And we have been doing that. And I must say there's something nice brewing, as Ian already pointed that out, with the plan that he's working on, or we are working on together. It's not a mission impossible anymore, because we need to come out of our comfort zone too. We need to come out of our way of traditionally educating and disseminating knowledge. And we've been experimenting with that in the past few years. Intensively in the past few months as well. So I can confidently say that there is something happening that we can now put together as an offer to our students. And you know what? The beauty of this is that it's going to be a collaborative effort together with our students. So we are going to be figuring it out, how they want to be taught and how we can teach them. So that's going to be the perfect match for being a responsible employee and later on employer of the future.
Yeah, well, good points there. And I think, the one perhaps a limitation would be with a master would be that they may be focused or maybe too focused on just enhancing and developing that one skill, and now it's a time where you really need to be thinking out of the box. You need to have different approach than you've had in the past. And I think that again relates back to what you're saying, that and Ian was also saying about the thinking and thinking out of the box, coming up with new ideas to solve a problem, rather than hiring a specialist and letting him do the stuff that he would normally do. That's probably not going to work going forward. So I think I am, like I said, I'm in agreement that it is a time. I have been a strong advocate of being a master of one. Do whatever you do it the best, and don't try to do many things at once and just be focused. But I think that's changing, and that's clearly. If you can be a jack of all trades, or if you can be a master of some or master of many, well, if that's possible, excellent. Now, just relating it back to our students and what we do at James Cook University, how are we preparing students for the future, for beyond 2020?
Okay, when it comes to internships, we get some amazing results from interns. First and foremost, they're thinking about their basic skill like accounting or management or whatever, IT, and then they realise that actually we've got to actually interface with human beings, like adult human beings, not student human beings. And so there's the skills that they're developing from that. We've had some extraordinary results, to be perfectly honest. One of our students, an MBA student, who his background was in mechanical engineering, he wanted to understand a bit about marketing, and so he worked in a digital marketing company. He applied his engineering skills into marketing and became employee of the week twice in 10 weeks, and in a staff of about 20 or 30 people. We've had other students doing accounting work, and some of them have the employers wanted them to stay there and get a job and so on. I've got one student actually right this trimester right now, not only doing an internship but doing a project for her internship host at the same time, like a double thing. And I think, well, who wins out of that? The host and the student. They both win. It makes no difference to me as the educator, but it makes a huge difference to both the student and the internship host. And that's like putting a double thing in there. Uh, um, it's extraordinarily rare for any student who's done an internship to say that it was just average. They almost always come back bubbling. And they just want to sit. Well, you know, it's like on our 6th floor here, the big red lounge. They want to sit on the big red lounge with me or whoever the lecturer is and talk at length about their experience, because it's been an eye-opener. It's not just the concept of their basic skill, but almost always they've figured out they need wider skills. Not just accounting, because they're working with human beings. They're talking with the client. They've got to be able to talk the language of the client, and all these other things come into it. So it's not just one skill. We had another student doing an internship in a biscuit factory of all places, and they had robots in there, like not human robots. I mean, the robots are chung 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 chung, pick and place kind of robots. And they were looking at replacing a number of robots. So he applied his logical thinking from what he picked up in the MBA and thought, well, okay. And he worked out a spare parts replacement program that saved that company literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. Honestly, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, again, because he thought laterally, as he said to me, I would not have known how to do that until a year ago. Yeah. So there's all these other skills that students pick up too from doing an internship or from doing a project. Because the projects, some of the projects they're writing about right now, like on issues like 5G or post-COVID business sustainability, and all these really exciting things that they're looking at that's useful for their life. And they'll have knowledge that no one, well, they probably will not work with anyone with the same knowledge that they have. So they've got this huge knowledge base then that they can give to other people. They can share that knowledge base. And do businesses win out of that? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And as industries are changing so quickly now, any company that's in business for doing X, probably in 5 or 10 years' time, won't just be doing X. They'll be doing X plus Y or X, or 2X or something different. So they have to have this ability to adapt to change as well. And that comes from both internships and projects. So, and I'm sure Esther would find exactly the same in the bachelor's degree.
Yeah, so Ian is looking after the master students, and I've got the privilege to look after the bachelor students when it comes to their work integrated learning component. And you know, traditionally we've got this work integrated learning component, which means that we try to teach students through work and embed all the learning in the working, and vice versa, embed all the working in the learning. But it's offered at the end of the degree. So we would love to see a change of students doing multiple internships or work placements or apprenticeships or project work or something along the lines of, okay, I've got these first level subjects, then I've got other specializations and then other level subjects. And it would be lovely to see students doing more of these work experience opportunities, which has been happening. It's taking on fairly well. And those students who indulge themselves in more work integrated learning components, they are very confident, and by the time they reach the final level of their degrees, they say, I'm absolutely okay, I know what I want to do, I know how I'm going to do it, let me get started. And usually they have employment lined up as well, right after graduation or even before. So the internships are an amazing opportunity, absolutely. We highly recommend all the students from the start of their degrees to actually prepare for that experience, because, you know, we need to get students ready for that experience when they face the employer and they face the industry and they face the clients. As Ian mentioned, that it's a really important part of a business, of any business. And you know, those students who try to do more work on campus, they still have the opportunity to work with industry partners, to work with external clients who are happy to come to campus and deliver their knowledge, present their problems, that the students can work independently, individually, or within groups. We try to manage that through interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary teams, so students can interact with other students from different disciplines, different majors. Again, that's a different way of thinking and seeing things in life, as well as offering some internship or work placement opportunities after the project if students are considered to be really good and top. Then these employers are happy to say, okay, you have proven yourself, so now it is time. Sorry, people, my lovely kitty cat just decided to walk into the picture.
Okay. Can we see? Can we see it?
Usually he's hiding all day long under the bed, but now for some reason he just needed to be in the show, right?
Okay, well, that's good. So we got more opinions. Does he have an
Oh,
opinion
definitely.
on this?
Oh, he's
all
got
right?
one.
Yeah.
Opinion and personality, there's his speciality. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, some employers are very happy to take on interns or students for paid work after completing some kind of great problem-solving exercise or a project work on campus or outside of campus as well. So these project work shadowing, observations, internships are an amazing component of our work integrated learning offer at the moment. But we are also looking at expanding on all of these to introduce more of that and to actually bring more employers into the classroom with their ideas, with their demeanor, with their challenges that they present to students. So we can play a little bit more. We also have a business hub or business club on campus, and students can kind of incubate their ideas, and they get all the help for respected colleagues like Ian and others. And in the bachelor degree, I try to encourage students who have their dreams and ideas, or they already have their family business operating in back home, that they would love to expand globally and bring it over to Australia, to start working on opening up their business. And while they are undertaking their degree, they are actually working on their own business. And I just managed to catch up with one of our students who, after his first trimester, opened up his business, and another one, and now he's still studying, but he's already managing his own business. What an amazing achievement that is. And he's not the first one doing that. Yeah. Previous trimester, we had another student from another country who established his family business. He brought over his family business here to Australia and expanded the scope of the business. So we can see these beautiful success stories that really encourage us to do more for the students, you know. And then I see the students struggling with figuring out what they are good at, who they are, what they want to do with their lives. So then we are offering completely different kind of assistance to those students. And we go down to the level of, okay, let's figure out who you are as a person, and then let's figure out who you are as a professional and how you're going to be contributing to life and to your own life first. So let's create some kind of self-awareness, and we are working on that as well through the mindfulness committee and the mindfulness programs offered. So we are trying to adopt and run a very holistic kind of approach when it comes to preparing students for the future and for the employment, because it is uncertain, because it is complex, because it is volatile, and because it is complex. We just love how dynamic life is. So why not? Let's just stretch ourselves too and see what we can do for them.
Absolutely. No, great points there. Our expert panel, as always, you continue to impress, and I'm sure our audience will find this valuable. Whether you choose to be a jack of all trades or a master of one or master of few or master of some, we have our top lecturers guiding you personally to make the best career choices. And we encourage you to write to us and know more about the programs. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you to the expert panel as well.